Hello, dear children, how are you all? I hope you all are fine and working hard for your studies. And today we shall start our history class. And the topic that we were discussing earlier was the Union Executive, which is one of the main part of civics. Okay, chapter number 17, the Union Executive. In previous classes, we have already discussed the three organs of government, Indian government, and that is legislature, executive, and judiciary. So the Union Legislature chapter that we have already discussed in the previous videos, and today we shall continue chapter 17, the Union Legislature. Okay, so in this we have already discussed about the president, what is his qualification, what is his role, how he is elected. So that we have covered in the previous video, and about the election also, that how he is elected, and about his powers and functions. So what we discussed about powers and functions of president. So we discussed that the powers of president are classified into following groups. Okay, that is this point. And what are the powers and functions of president? There are several powers like executive and military, legislative power, financial power, judicial, emergency, and discretionary powers. So now here, after this we have to continue from the president. Okay, that is the vice president. Okay, president we have already discussed, and we have to now today discuss about the vice president. That vice president, what is his role, what are his functions, what are his powers, how he is elected, so that we have to discuss. So there we start. The vice president of India is the second highest constitutional office in India after the president. So what is given, that after the president, the vice president of India is the second highest constitutional office in India. And after this, next point, that what is the qualification and election, that is what are the qualifications needed for a person to be the vice president of the country, and how election is held for this post, that who elects him. So to be elected as vice president, a person must be a citizen of India, then not be less than 35 years of age, and third, not hold any office of profit, and next one, have all the qualifications required to be a member of the Rajya Sabha. So once again we shall repeat that to be elected as vice president, a person must be a citizen of India, not be less than 35 years of age, not hold any office of profit, and have all the qualifications needed to be a member of Rajya Sabha. And then next is given that the vice president is elected for a term of 5 years. So what is the term for the vice president? The term is 5 years. The electoral college, or to elect a person to the office of the vice president, consists of all members of both houses of parliament, of both houses, that means Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So vice president, the electoral college to elect a person to be office of the vice president, that is who elects the vice president, that all the members of both the houses elect the vice president. Then after this, what are the functions and the powers of vice president? So here it is given. First point, the vice president performs the duties of the president in his or her absence due to death, and then migration, impeachment, or other situation. That is, if any kind of such circumstances arise, then in that case, in the absence of president, vice president performs the duties of the president. That is, in case he is absent, in case the president dies, okay, or that is during his period only, during his time period only, if he dies, so in his absence vice president acts. And then if he is not present, if he has migrated somewhere, or in case of impeachment or any other situation in which when the president is not there, so vice president performs the duties. Then the vice president of India is also ex officio chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. So these are the two main powers and functions of vice president. Now next we have to discuss is the prime minister. Okay, so here it is given that the Prime Minister of India is the head of the government and the leader of the executive wing of the government. So Prime Minister is the head of the government, as we all know, and the leader of the executive wing of the government. And the powers that are nominally vested in the president are actually exercised by the prime minister. That whatever powers are given to the president, so they all are exercised by the prime minister. That president cannot use any of his powers by his own. At first he has to discuss about all his dealings, or all about his whatever he wants to implement. He has to discuss with the president, with the prime minister. Then the president must act on his or her advice. That always he has to take advice from the prime minister. Then the prime minister's position is the most important political position in the country, and we all are aware with this, that the prime minister's position is the most important political position in country. Then what are the qualifications needed for a person to be the prime minister of country? So here it is given that he should be a citizen of India, that the Prime Minister must be citizen of India, and then be a member of the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, that he should be member of one of the houses. And then third point, be above 25 years of age if he or she is a member of Lok Sabha, or above 30 years of age if he is a member of Rajya Sabha. Okay, so what is given? Third important point that should be fulfilled by a person if he wants to become a prime minister. Suppose if he is member of Lok Sabha, then at least he should be above 25 years of age, and if the person is member of Rajya Sabha, then he should be of the age above 30 years. Then last point, not hold an office of profit under the government of India or the government of any state. So what is given? That not hold any office of profit under the government of India or the government of any state. That means he should not be any government employee, that he should not work in any of the state government jobs, or nor he should be involved in any kind of other government offices of India. Okay, now after this, election. Next point, after the general elections, when the new Lok Sabha is constituted, the President of India appoints the leader of the party or alliance which gets majority in the Lok Sabha as the Prime Minister of India. So, what is given? That after the general elections, when the new Lok Sabha is constituted, that is, once the general elections are held and the new Lok Sabha is constituted, the President of India appoints the leader of the party. Okay, now who appoints the leader of the party? The President. Okay, or alliance which gets majority in the Lok Sabha as the Prime Minister of India. Then in case of no party gets majority, in case that no party gets majority of the members, the president appoints the leader of the largest party. That is, the more the members in the party, so who appoints that? The president appoints the leader of the largest party of that or alliance as the prime minister. Then the full term of prime minister is 5 years. So what is given? That he also remains for a period of 5 years, and then However, the term can end sooner if he or she loses the vote of confidence in the Lok Sabha. So, what is given that the term can end, that is the period of 5 years that is allotted for Prime Minister, so that can end sooner if he or she loses the vote of confidence in the Lok Sabha, and the Prime Minister can also resign by writing to the President. Okay, so this is how a Prime Minister is elected. So once again we shall repeat that after the general elections are held, when the new Lok Sabha is constituted, the President of India appoints the leader of the party. That is, the President appoints the leader of the party or alliance which gets majority in the Lok Sabha as the Prime Minister of India. That is, if 2 or 3 parties are there and more are the members in any of the respective party, so from that party only the Prime Minister is elected. And in case no party gets majority, then the President appoints the leader of the largest party or alliance as the Prime Minister. Now next is functions and powers of the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister acts as a link between the people, the Parliament and the President. Second point, he advises the President on the discharge of his or her duties. The President is obligated to function under the advice of the Prime Minister. So what is given? That the Prime Minister advises the President on the discharge of his or her duties, and President also is obligated to function under the advice of the Prime Minister. Then third point, that the Prime Minister selects members of Parliament to the Council of Ministers. So he only selects, Prime Minister only selects members of Parliament to the Council of Ministers, or we can say Cabinet. Okay, Council of Ministers and Cabinet is same almost. Okay, we shall discuss it later. Uh, Distributes portfolios amongst the Council of Ministers and acts as a link between the different departments of the government and oversees the smooth functioning of each, can demand an expansion of the cabinet or the resignation of any minister. So with real power comes a lot of responsibility. The Prime Minister is answerable to the people of India for the success or the failure of his or her government. Okay, so the main functions are there that Prime Minister has to enact, and powers are also with him. Then Council of Ministers. So after the Prime Minister is appointed by the government, he or she selects her or his Council of Ministers from among the members of the Parliament. The Council of Ministers are appointed by the President of India. So what is given? That after the Prime Minister is appointed by the government, he or she selects his or her Council of Ministers from among the members of Parliament. Okay, that Council of Ministers are also elected from the members of the Parliament, and the Council of Ministers are appointed by the President of India. So there are 4 ranks within the Council of Ministers. First is Cabinet Ministers, second Ministers of State, and Ministers of State with independent charge, and fourth Deputy Ministers. So the Prime Minister assigns each minister with a department or a portfolio. The Prime Minister may call for the resignation of any minister at any time. In case of refusal, he may advise the President to dismiss the minister. The next is given Cabinet. Now the Cabinet is the inner circle of the Council of Ministers. Keep in mind, the cabinet is the inner circle, that is core of the Council of Ministers. They hold the highest ranks and are responsible for the most important decisions and policies of the country. So the cabinet, the Council of Ministers who are there, so they hold the highest rank and are responsible for the most important decisions and policies of the country, and the real executive powers is held by the cabinet only. So the real executive power which is there, so that is held by the cabinet, and the cabinet is collectively answerable to the Lok Sabha that exercises control as part of its legislative duties. The cabinet can remain in office as long as it enjoys the support or confidence of the Lok Sabha. If Lok Sabha passes a vote of no confidence against any of the ministers, the whole Council of Ministers must resign. Thus, the members of the Council of Ministers swim and sing together. Okay, so what we can say is that suppose if Lok Sabha passes a vote of no confidence against any of the ministers, then whole Council of Ministers must resign, and the members of Council of Ministers swim and sing together. That is, all those members are there of Council of Ministers, so they work also together, and if they have to if they are removed from the post, so all the members are removed at a time. So that is what given swim and sing together. Now next is permanent executive, that is civil service. While the president, vice president and the prime minister and council of ministers constitute the political executive, the civil servants are the permanent executives. Okay, the political executive is elected by the people and hold office for a specified period. So what is given, that while the president, vice president and the prime minister and council of ministers constitute the political executive, the civil servants are the permanent executives. So the civil servants who are there, so they are the permanent executive, and the political executive is elected by the people. So the political executives who are there, they are elected by the people and hold office for a specified period, and for the specified period only they hold their office, that is their duties, their post. So they also do not have specific expertise on various subject areas. Therefore, the ministers are assisted by civil servants who provide in depth and specialized advice on various important policy matters. Civil servants are government employees who are appointed on a long term basis. They do not belong to any political party and remain in office even when the ruling party changes. And the civil servants are can belong to the Indian Administration Service, that is IAS, the Indian Foreign Service, that is IFS, or the Indian Police Service, that is IPS. Okay, so these civil servants who are there, so they do not belong to any particular party, but and they also remain for the longer period of time, that is they don't have very short duration posts. Okay, so once they become, or once they get this post of IAS or IPS or IFS, so they remain, and they are permanent executive, they are called the permanent executives. Okay, now here we have end our chapter, children, and in this once again I recap that what are the important points that we have studied in this, about the union executive. Okay, that what is the work, what is the role of executive. Role of executive is to uh, implement the laws. Okay, and then after this, next we read is about the president. Okay, that president is the head of the state and he exercises nominal powers with him. And then what is the term of president? He is for 5 years, and he is elected indirectly, elected by electoral college. Then next we discussed about vice president. That vice president is second highest constitutional office in India, and his term is 5 years, and he is elected by the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha and performs function of president in his or her absence. And then we discussed about prime minister and council of ministers. That prime minister is the head of government, he exercises real power, and he is elected directly by the people, and uh, he is the leader of majority party in Lok Sabha after general election, and he is appointed by president. Then council of ministers, that he is appointed by president on recommendation by the prime minister. That council of ministers are appointed by president on recommendation by the prime minister. And so these are the main points that we have discussed in this chapter. Thank you, dear children.